Okay, Rabbi Say, we're going to do one more shiur that I gave over Shavuos, but I'm going to give now for my virtual audience. So guys, it's for you. Okay, so we all know that when you go from eating fleishiks to milchiks, you have to wait. You know, most people wait 6 hours, maybe 5.5, maybe, 5 hours and a minute into the 6th hour, maybe 3 hours, maybe 1 hour. But everybody waits going from meat to milk, from fleishiks to milchiks. Well, what about when you go from milchiks to fleishiks? Do you have to wait at all? Do you have to do anything? So let's think. Do you have to wait? So we actually really have a Gemara by Minei Reb Asi from Rabbi Yochanan. And he asked, how long do you have to wait from cheese to meat? And he says, miyad, right away you're able to eat. You don't have to wait at all. You eat cheese, right away you could eat meat. There's no requirement of time from milk to flesh, from cheese to meat. And that is what the Gemara says. The Shulchan Aruch, as you would expect, Shulchan Aruch in Yeridea Peites Beis, says that one does not need to wait. Following the Gemara, one does not need to wait at all, but he has requirements of doing 3 things. The first thing he has to do is check his hands, check his fingers, check his hands. Is there any cheese residue? Is there any milchiks left over on his hands? If there's any milchiks left over on his hands, then you obviously got to wash your hands before eating meat, because if your milk gets onto your meat, we're going to have problems. So you have to check your hands. If it's night, then you have to wash your hands. Why? They used to not have very good lighting. And if you don't have very good lighting, to go from eating your milk, you won't know by just taking a peek in the dark. And therefore, you have to wash your hands. Second thing and what about nowadays? I would just say nowadays, seemingly, if you have good lighting, you should be able to check your hands. However, I would add, even though I think from the Shulchan Aruch, technically you definitely could just check your hands. Nowadays, our water is flowing, so to speak. Water is much more readily available. So I would say if it's easy, shmeezy, to go and rinse your hands off, it's probably a good thing to do. It's probably advisable. Once again, if you're in a place where it's not so simple and it's not so easy to wash your hands off from milchiks to fleishiks, l'maisa, you check your hands. They're good. They're clean. You are good. Now, what else do you have to do? So you have to do something called kinuach. What is kinuach? Kinuach is a way of cleaning out your mouth. How do you clean out your mouth from the food that you ate? You chew. By chewing food, you clean it out. Now, the Shulchan Aruch says that you could eat any food except flour, dates, or vegetables. Now, I don't know what it means eating flour. I was trying to figure this out. I'm not sure, who eats flour? Kemach, who eats flour? Okay, I don't know. Maybe there used to be a thing of eating flour. I'm not really sure. Dates. What's wrong with dates? I'm assuming since dates are very clumpy and sticky, therefore you don't eat them all over your mouth. I guess you probably eat a date on one part of your mouth and that's it. And I imagine the kinuach is meant to be something that's going to, make the rounds around your mouth. And why not vegetables? Maybe vegetables in general aren't so absorbent, so maybe it's not. They want something that's going to actually absorb up the food you ate. That's what I'm assuming. So take your cracker, take your pretzels, take your potato chips, or whatever it is that you're going to eat in between, or most foods, and that will work to do your kinuach. There's something else you need, which is called hadacha, which is to wash your mouth out. That you're allowed to use water, you can use wine, pretty much any liquid, any drink will work to do hadacha. Now, the Shulchan Aruch sounds like it's the order. You first do kinuach. You first chew on some food, then you do hadacha. Once again, we're talking about going from milchiks to fleishiks. You want to get that milk out of your mouth. So how do you get that milk out of your mouth? Seemingly, you first do kinuach. You chew up some other food in between, some power food, and then you do hadacha. You use some liquid you drink something to rinse out your mouth. Now, is that order important? So the Darkei Tshuva and the Levush say yes, you have to first do kinuach, then hadacha, which I would say is the mashmois. It's not mafresh, but that's the mashmois of the Shulchan Aruch. The Ma'aseh the Shach says either order is okay. You could do kinuach hadacha, or you could do hadacha kinuach. You could chew and rinse and chew. Either way is fine according to the shach. What's l'maisa? So I would say l'maisa, once again, if it's simple and if it's easy, then just do it that way. First chew on something, first eat something, and then drink something, because why not do it the right way? Now, if for whatever reason you're stuck, so you're fine. You'll have the shach to rely on, and you'll do the hadacha, then the kinuach. Okay, now what if you didn't eat milchiks, you only drank milchiks. You had a coffee, but you didn't eat anything, so there's probably nothing stuck in between your teeth. Zak the Rashash says you just need hadacha. Now this is very logical. It's very logical that if all you had was the liquid to come in, all you need is the liquid to come out. The Badei Shulchan says something which is a little bit puzzling to me. He says as like a light plug seemingly, that it's still better to do the kinuach. I'm not sure why. Now what if you ate with a fork? Do you still need to do you need to wash your hands or check your hands? So I think it's pretty clear from the Shulchan Aruch and the Shach. If they say even when you ate with your hands, it would be good enough to just check. So surely if you ate with a fork, it's good enough to just check. But once again, if we have water readily available, it's not such a big deal. I would add that it kind of depends how you eat with a fork. There's some people that will, the Yethi who eats with a fork and the food will never touch his hand, then yeah, I guess it's not so much of a need to wash your hands. But if you're a little bit of a Haimish eater, and your hands assist your fork, from time to time you need a little assistance from your hands to your fork, then you should wash your hands. Does brushing teeth count as kinuach v'adacha? So, when I was giving a share, everybody thought, yeah. I think it's not so pashut. It's not clear that brushing your teeth should work. Why? For two reasons. What are the two reasons? First of all, when you do kinuach and hadacha, you swallow. That goes all the way down. Chevra, you're not supposed to swallow the toothpaste. Sorry. And if you do, we got to talk about hashgacha on toothpaste, but that's for a different share. But guys, you're not supposed to be swallowing that toothpaste. And if we're not supposed to be swallowing that toothpaste, therefore it's not gonna do the same job as the kinuach hadacha, which you're gonna actually swallow. Okay. Next point is that fine. And the second reason why toothbrushing may not be as good, this is a concept we see, for example, in kashering. The way that it became treif, or the way that it became fleishiks, that's the way that it became chametz stick. That's the way that you get rid of how it absorbed the taste. So if it went in, with such a process, it comes out with such a process. I think we could say a similar thing by eating the milchiks. You got milchiks by chewing on something. The best way to get unmilchiks and get that food out from wherever it is to chew. Because when you do a repeat process, it's more likely to get away whatever got in. Even if toothbrushing might have some advantages, it might be more aggressive in getting things out, but following the same way that it came in potentially could be advantageous. So don't try to reinvent the wheel. We'll do some kinuach v'adacha. So do you have to wait any time between the milchiks and the fleishiks? So as we pointed out, the Shulchan Aruch seems to be mashma no. The Zohar says, and we discussed this in a previous share regarding Shavuos, the milchik and fleishik meal of the Ramah in Shavuos, that the Zohar says you're not allowed to eat meat and milk b'chad shaisa. At one time, obviously I can't eat meat and milk at one time. I'm a firma yid, Zohar. What's going on? What does the Zohar tell me? I can't have meat and milk together. Obviously not. So what does the Zohar mean when he says b'chad shaisa? So some understand him to mean within 1 hour, or some understand him to mean within one time frame. There's also a different part of within one suda, not for now, or within one time frame. What's one time frame? We see generally a half an hour is considered within the same time frame. Like for example, we see in Hilchas Bayr, Samach L'Suda, the place we say is a half an hour. Because that's the same time as the Suda. More than a half an hour is a different time. So you need more than a half an hour from milk to meat to differentiate. Now that is the Zohar, and for those that want to be makbid on the Zohar, gesund hate. and we'll discuss who thinks you should or shouldn't be machmer. But the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, they are not machmer for this Zohar. Okay. Now, but so the Gemara, by the way, I want to point out, clearly rejects the Zohar as well. Because remember, we had Rav Asi asked Rabbi Yochanan, how long do you have to wait from cheese to meat? And Rabbi Yochanan said you could eat it right away. So once again, the Gemara itself is rejecting this Zohar, and the Shulchan Aruch Ramah reject this Zohar. And once again, I would say, bring back to the Shavuos Sugya as well. In the Shavuos Sugya, it says you have the milk from one bread, and then you have from the other bread the meat. And it doesn't mention anywhere that you have to wait. And the Mishnah Berurah as well doesn't pipe it and say you have to wait. So it seems to be a consensus from the Shulchan Aruch Ramah, Mishnah Berurah, that you do not need to wait. Fine. So based on all general halachic principles, going from milk to meat, you do not need to wait. The Aruch HaShulchan says that midin, you do not need to wait from milchiks to fleishiks. However, some are machmir to wait from milchiks to fleishiks this half an hour. Rav Sternbach, Rav Vosner, Rav Shlomo Zalman, they all say that the minig is to wait. So it's interesting. Rav Sternbach, Rav Vosner, and Rav Shlomo Zalman apparently say that the minig is to wait a half an hour. So the Rav Sternbach asked, what about after coffee? Do you have to wait after coffee? He said, l'chayra, you probably don't need to wait after coffee because that washes away so easily. It's hard to know the basis of the Zohar, but I guess that's probably what the probably of Rav Sternbach was based on. L'maisa, if it's your minhag to wait from milk to meat, then wait. And if it's not your minhag to wait from milk to meat, then I don't think you need to. Now, after waiting, do you still need to do kinuach v'adacha? You already waited, 2 hours. Do you still need to do a kinuach v'adacha? So Israel Orbach says, you waited the half an hour, you do not need to do kinuach v'adacha. But he doesn't say it with absolute authority. He says probably, perhaps, but he doesn't say it as absolute. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky says that after waiting an hour, you don't need to do kinuach v'adacha. The milchus is gone. No more kinuach v'adacha required. Fine. Next question. Do you need to wait 6 hours after eating cheese until you eat meat? Or after eating hard cheese until you eat meat? So, it seems clear from the Gemara. No. Once again, Rav Asi asked Rabbi Yochanan, do you have to wait from cheese to meat? And he said no. And don't tell me, he was talking about soft cheese. Then Rabbi Yochanan should have differentiated. For hard cheese, 6 hours. For soft cheese, nothing. But he seems to say as a general rule, you don't have to wait. And that is the clear mashmais of the Gemara, that you do not need to wait. The Maram Rottenberg says he used to make fun of the people that waited from cheese to meat. Where are you guys getting this from? You're making it up. Until one time, he found in his teeth, hours after he ate cheese, he found some cheese in his teeth, and he started waiting the 6 hours from cheese to meat. The Mordechai also brings down this minhag of waiting 6 hours from cheese to meat. Now, the Maisa, the Shulchan Aruch does not bring this down. So it's seemingly the Sfardim do not have this concept of waiting from hard cheese to milk. However, hard cheese to meat. However, when I was giving this share in Shavuos, somebody piped up and said the Kaf HaChaim says that Sfardim should wait from hard cheese to meat. I didn't get a chance to look for it, but we'll assume that he knows what he's talking about. So apparently the Kaf HaChaim says to wait from hard cheese to meat. Now, fine. The Ramah says, Yesh machmirim to wait 6 hours after cheese to eat meat, v'chein noigim to wait 6 hours after hard cheese like after eating meat. So just like after eating meat you wait, so too after hard cheese you wait. That's what he writes. So v'chein noigim to wait after eating hard cheese, just like you wait after meat. Now, and he goes on to say that some are mekel and they don't wait. Don't be meicha. Don't be meicha against those that are mekel. They're allowed to be mekel. They don't have to wait. However, toiv lahachmer. So, from the Rosh sending some different signals, and it seems to be clear. This is not a universal thing that everybody has to keep, but but he's advising you. If you want to take the advice of the Ramah, he advises you should be machmir. He's telling you it's good to be machmir, but this isn't a undebatable pashut thing. Now, this is very interesting as a side point that the Ramah is choosing, taking this concept from Ram Rottenberg, etc., when it's clear the Gemara rejects it. So to take a, so to speak, das yachid is michudash. The Maisa, the Shach, and Taz seem to go with this idea that it's good to be machmer. The Shach, however, happens to quote the Marshal, who says, don't be machmer. So it seems, once again, an Ashkenazi should be machmer, but understand that it's a chumrah. As I pointed out, that the Ramah said waiting 6 hours, waiting like you wait after meat for hard cheese. What's the reason? So the reason seems to be the same reason that you wait by meat. Why do you wait by meat? There's two reasons given. Either because it takes hours to digest meat and you kind of breathe up the taste of the meat for hours afterwards, or because the meat gets stuck between your teeth. So too by hard cheese. A real hard cheese has a real strong taste, that could totally stay with you for hours. And furthermore, that hard cheese is very hard and it gets stuck in between your teeth. So that really makes sense in a way why you would say that you have to wait for it. So Maisa, what qualifies as hard cheese? What is hard cheese? So the Shach says that if it was aged 6 months or longer, that's hard cheese. We have a litmus test. It's 6 months, aged for 6 months, it's hard cheese. That is the Shach. The Taz says that what's hard cheese? Gvinas matalas, like wormy cheese. What does that mean? I think what it means is cheese that has like holes in it. Like Swiss cheese. The Green Bay Packer fans, the cheese heads, the Swiss cheese with the big yellow cheese with the holes in the middle. So when the cheese gets to those holes, that's hard cheese. What shaykhs? I think it's a siman of its strong taste. And the Taz even uses these terms of that the tam is moishach. It stretches, it pulls, it extends. It has a strong taste. Okay, so which cheeses actually meet this criteria of hard cheese? So the OU has a whole list of all these cheeses that you have to wait 6 hours. Now, I'm not such a fine schmecker, and most of those cheeses on the list I didn't recognize. I'm going to tell you right now the cheeses that I did recognize. Parmesan cheese, you have to wait 6 hours. Aged cheddar, which isn't the basic cheddar that's sold. Aged cheddar and Swiss cheese. Not the American fake-out version of the Swiss cheese, but the real Swiss cheese. Some of the stuff that they said that you have to wait, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but whatever. Appenzeller, Surchix, some types of Asiago, Cacavala, the aged version, Caciota alpina, dry Monterey Jack, not the regular Monterey Jack, it has to be specifically the dye one. Cheddar, which is not the mild one, but cheddar, which is medium or sharp aged. Mantel, Fior Sardo, and those were the basic ones that were on the list. I probably butchered their names, but whatever. The Maisa for the regular guys, we're talking about Parmesan and the aged cheddar. And I'm going to say the Swiss cheese, even though I don't know if I've ever tasted it. I'm not sure if I have or haven't, but I definitely have seen it. Okay, so that is the OU's list. And they're working with the Shach's requirement of being aged 6 months. Rebelsky writes, before I do Rebelsky, when Aaron Cutler said, what qualifies as hard cheese? So hard cheese is anything that's so hard it needs to be cut by an axe. You can't just slice it with a knife. And these are cheeses, actually one of the things that they use to describe and define hard cheese is something that needs to be grated and can't be sliced. So that's working very in line with the Rav Aaron Cutler. He's really basing it on a Gemara, but whatever. You have to cut it with an axe. You can't just go and slice it nicely. So it's so hard. So that is Reb Aaron Cutler's, and I heard that the Star K uses Reb Aaron Cutler's siman as to determine what is considered hard cheese. Rebelsky writes that now some people claim that nowadays, they get 6-month cheese in 3 weeks in the factories because they have all these processes of making the process fast, and you get hard cheese in a short amount of time. So Dr. Rebelsky, he claims from CS level that is fake news. He says it's fake news. It's not true. It takes you want the real hard cheese. It still takes 6 months. This never changed, and they don't do it quicker. And that claim is just fake news, according to Rebelsky. The Chazon Ish and Reb Chaim Kanievsky say it needs to be aged 1 year. Now, I don't know where this is from. Like, what sheikhs 1 year? I have a feeling they have some achroin up their pocket that I couldn't find, that I didn't come across, because I find it very surprising. The Shach says 6 months, and the Chazon Ish and Reb Chaim are saying a year. I imagine it's based on somebody, but whoever it's based on, I did not find it. Okay, so that's pretty clear. Those are the hard cheeses. That real, stuff with the strong, hard stuff with the strong taste and that really bad smell. You know what I'm talking about? That's what we have to wait for. Now, what about Israeli yellow cheese? For those that don't know what Israeli yellow cheese is, it's just the standard sliced cheese that they sell in Israel. It's higher quality cheese than American cheese, because American cheese isn't really cheese. It's like a little milk and oil congealed and whatever. That's what American cheese is. So this is like a little bit more cheese. Maybe it's a combination between American cheese and cheddar and mild cheddar. American cheese and mild cheddar, somewhere in the middle, seems to be Israeli yellow cheese. I hope that was a sophisticated explanation. It really isn't. Okay, so is it aged? No, not really. Apparently it's just aged a couple of weeks. Okay, so it's not aged 6 months or close. And what about its taste? Well, it does have a little bit of a strong taste, but nothing like the really intense stuff. Okay. You need an axe to cut it? No, you rip it yourself with your fingers. It's often when you're trying to rip a slice, it ends up ripping. Okay, very soft. So should you have to wait 6 hours? So far, based on everything we said, no, not at all. Zakt Rav Yashiv, Zakt Rav Shlomo Zalman, Zakt Rav Vosner, they all say you need to wait 6 hours from Israeli yellow cheese. What? Why would I have to wait 6 hours from Israeli yellow cheese? They all say, once again, Rav Yashiv, Rav Shlomo Zalman, Rav Vosner, 6 hours on Israeli yellow cheese. Why? Why would you have to wait 6 hours on Israeli yellow cheese? So one reason that I heard explaining this is the claim that yes, it's true, it's not aged 6 months. That's just because nowadays they create 6-month cheese quicker in the factories nowadays. They have processes to do it quicker. Now, if this is the reason, it seems very difficult because at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like the real hard stuff. It doesn't smell like the real hard stuff. And it doesn't taste like the real hard stuff. It does have a little bit of the taste. There's a mild version of the really intense stuff, but it's definitely not the intensity of the real stuff. So that's a little bit hard to understand. Another reason that I've heard as an explanation as to why they're machmer is because they say, it's moishach tam. And who knows, the Taz's reason was moishach tam. It has a strong taste. Who knows what is considered moishach tam? I am masking the yellow cheese does have a little bit of a strong taste to it. So who knows where, what's the cutoff point of moishach tam, strong taste. And therefore we just make a light plug, and anything that isn't soft cheese, cream cheese, gvina levana, if you know what that is, cottage cheese, anything that's not soft cheese like that, anything that you don't have with a spoon. Anything more than that, anything that you could hold up like this and it stays in one piece, they're machmer as a light plug because, once again, it's moishach tam. Who knows what's considered moishach tam? And if who knows what's considered moishach tam, and they don't know where the cutoff point is. And I would add that I don't think, up until as of 10 years ago, I don't think you get a Chalav Yisrael. I don't think they made in Israel a Chalav Yisrael strong taste cheese. So I think the Gedolim of Eretz Yisrael had very little to even work with in their personal lives as to understanding what this hard cheese even is. So that also might complicate it. But I guess they made like some sort of a loy plug, anything with a strong taste of in any degree, even though it's much weaker than the real strong stuff, they wanted to consider hard cheese. That is a chiddush. Now, once again, if you're going to say that they want to say that this is Moishech Tam and this is the taste of the real hard cheese, that's very difficult because the people that eat real hard cheese say it's just not true. It's not true. So, and I don't want to say the Gedolim made a mistake, so I'm not going to say that. And if it's the second reason of a loy plug, that's also somewhat difficult. Why? Because the Ramah clearly brings this down as a chumrah. And if the Ramah brings this down as a chumrah, to make a loy plug, to make sure that we keep the chumrah, seems like a chumrah the chumrah. You don't make a loy, it's quite a chiddush to make a loy plug to make sure we don't go against the chumrah. Seems like a shtickle chumrah yisera, but l'maisa, the Gedolim said it, so they said it. Now, the Shach explained, the Aruch HaShulchan, how he explained the Shach, is that you have to wait an hour. The Ikar Din, for Ashkenazim at least, from meat to milk is an hour. Yes, the minhag is 6 hours, but the Ikar Din is 1 hour from meat to milk. So the way that the Aruch HaShulchan understands what the Shach is saying, you should wait from hard cheese to meat 1 hour. Something that I heard from B'Shem Rav Sternbach, I didn't see this myself, but I heard it B'Shem Rav Sternbach, and I like it because it makes a lot of sense. Rav Sternbach, by the way, was born in England, spent many years in England before coming to Eretz Yisrael and South Africa, whatever, but he spent many years of his younger years in England. Now, apparently, they had these really strong hard cheeses in England and other places in Europe for the last, 50, 60, 70, 80 years, whatever. They've always had these hard cheeses, apparently, in England. I think in America, it only became more common in the last, 25 years or whatever it is. But apparently in Europe, in places like England and France, they had this for many, many years. So I think Rav Sternbach pretty much, what I heard he said is, let's face it, he said, I know what the real hard cheese, I know the real stuff. I've tasted the real stuff back in England. And this yellow cheese, it's not the real deal. This yellow cheese is not the real intense stuff. But Lamaisa, the Poiskei Eretz Yisrael, have come and said for yellow cheese you have to wait. Says Rav Sternbach, even though I be'etzem disagree with them from a sugya standpoint, and I wouldn't call this to be hard cheese. However, in respect to the Poiskei Eretz Yisrael, you should wait an hour from having the yellow cheese before you eat meat. True, it's probably not the hard cheese, but out of respect, covered, we have this shach that says you should only wait an hour. Work with the shach and wait the ikar waiting time from meat to milk is only an hour, so wait an hour from cheese to yellow cheese to meat, out of respect and covered for the Poiskei Eretz Yisrael. And personally, this is something that I've started to do, a long time ago already, that I'll wait an hour from yellow cheese until I have meat. Now, what if it's melted? Let's say, pizza. Your yellow cheese is melted on, that's pizza. Zak the Yad Yehuda, once it's melted, it's not as hard anymore, the taste is less, and therefore you no longer have to wait. Only for, real hard cheese do you have to wait. Melted cheese, like the Yad Yehuda, you don't need to wait anymore. Ben Ish Chai says, no. Melted cheese, you do have to wait. And they happen to say, B'Shem Rav Yoshev, and I heard also B'Shem Rav Shlomo Zalman, they want to say for pizza, which is melted yellow cheese, they want to say you have to wait 6 hours. And that's how the Poiskei Eretz Yisrael go. Once again, there's the Rav Sternbach waiting an hour, and even by melted cheese, maybe you could even do less. Maybe you don't need to wait by melted cheese because you have the Yad Yehuda as well. It's hard to come up with a clear-cut psak, especially I don't want to come up with a psak against the Poiskei Eretz Yisrael. But Lamaisa in America, nobody's waiting on any of these basic cheeses. They're only going to wait on the real intense stuff. In Eretz Yisrael, many are going to wait 6 hours on even the basic stuff. Some are going to go like Rav Sternbach. Some aren't going to wait at all. And, that's a decision that needs to be made. Thank you for listening.